Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm going to be doing the Living Witness to History project, but before I get started with that, I want to introduce you to my family. So, here's a picture of my family from 2008. That's my mom on the left, Kathy. In the middle you can see my dad, Nadim, and my younger sister's on the right, and her name is Sophie. And I'm going to be doing the Living Witness to History project with my father, Nadim. So, my dad lived 27 years in Pakistan, which is half his life. He's from Karachi, Pakistan, which has an estimated 23.7 million, makes it the third largest city in the world by population, and it's the seventh largest urban agglomeration and the largest city in the Muslim world. After 27 years old, he moved to Baylor College of Medicine, which is located in Dallas, Texas, to study medicine. He's now a doctor who studies internal medicine. After he finished going to school there, he moved to Houston, where he met my mom, and then together, they moved all the way over to Alabama, Fort Payne, Alabama, and then a few years after living there, they moved to Birmingham, Alabama, where we live now today. So then he started working for the University of Alabama, and he was a doctor there. Here's a picture of Birmingham, but we don't actually live in Birmingham, we live in Vestavia Hills. So, I really hope you guys enjoy the presentation. I worked really hard on it, and I hope that my father can give you a really good idea of what it was like to be a Muslim in 9/11. So, enjoy!
يفرض الإسلام دينا ذقنا شوقا لجهاد الكافرين لجهاد يفرض الإسلام دينا.
That the war against Islam and Muslims is not just a military war. Rather, the war against Islam and Muslims is ideological in all spheres. Economically, socially, they're attacking Islam. They attack the niqab, they attack the jilbab. This is women's dress. The women who wear that, they feel liberal. But they attack, they say take your clothes off, that is liberal. We see the attack against Islam and Muslims. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one we hold very high esteem, the one we love more than we love ourselves. They attack him, they draw cartoons about him, they attack his honor. And look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran, the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been attacked. And the constitutions, they give a speech for them, they give platform for them to speak against them. How dare any constitution speak? Therefore, we're in the head of the Taghut, the American Empire.
Not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
My God.
That looks like a second plane.
Terrible.
I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
We just saw another plane coming in from the side.
You did. That was out of
Yes, and that's the second explosion. You could see the plane come in just from the right-hand side of the screen. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted
arriving at the scene. Jim Friedel in Hoboken said it appeared to back sharply and smash.
It just happened live on our air.
You're over in Chelsea. Did you hear the explosion from your position?
Yes, we did. As a matter of fact, we heard it, and because I was just like standing there pretty much looking out the window, I didn't see what caused it or if there was an impact.
So you have no idea right now?
There's another plane just hit. Right, oh my gosh, another plane has just hit. It hit another.
And there's more explosions right now. Hold on, people are running.
Winston, hold on just a moment. We've got an explosion inside.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running. Dying right now.
Well, Winston, you know what? If you could give us a call back, I just don't want to panic here on the air. Let's just take some of our pictures from News Chopper.
A very large plane just flew directly over my building, and there's been another collision. Can you see it? I can see it on the shot.
Oh my!
Something else has
You know what? We just saw a plane circling the building.
It is in the other building.
We just saw a plane circling the building a second ago on the shot right before that.
I think there may have been another.
What has been going on?
The center is now in full alert. The FBI extremely concerned that there would be additional attacks. Normally when you have a situation like this, they immediately get on the line with the CIA, the various intelligence agencies, trying to get a sense of who might have been planning something. But right now, the first order of business is to protect against a second attack, third attack. The feeling is normally when you have this kind of situation, there will be more attacks almost immediately.
Let's go to the trade tower again, because, John, we now have a... What do we have? We don't...
Falling away.
Next thing I know, there was this tremendous explosion as it hit the Pentagon. I looked over, and the smoke started coming up. Pieces of the plane and pieces of the Pentagon were falling onto the 14th Street, onto the Shirley Highway. very scary. So I did.
Crossing to the World Trade Center in New York just a moment or two ago.
Not only to tell people to keep some distance from the building, but to take immediate cover.
Can you tell me a little bit more? Well, actually, let's look at these live pictures at the World Trade Center. The other tower of the World Trade Center has just collapsed. You are looking at live pictures of the second twin tower at the World Trade Center collapsing as a result of the crash of an airplane into its side. That, I believe, was the first tower that was struck
But I
this morning.
suspect that there's a little tiny bit of panic creeping in here, and people are reporting bangs as explosions. There's no confirmation of other explosions, but certainly every government building in Washington has been closed, and the staff of these buildings have been told, look, go home. It doesn't matter how you get home, just go home. Try not to use cars
Dad?
because the roads are totally...
Thank you for doing the interview with me. Okay. So, I'm just gonna go through some personal questions really quickly. So, can you please state your name?
Nadeem Akhtar.
Okay, and how old are you, Nadeem?
I am 53, about to be 54.
Okay, your birthday is August 20th, yes?
Right.
Okay. What is your background, your ethnicity?
I was born in Karachi, Pakistan. And you are interviewing me from Barcelona, and I am right now in Birmingham, Alabama.
So you have a Pakistani ethnicity, and you were born in Pakistan, Karachi.
Yes.
Okay. And you're married for how long to Kathy Akhtar?
About 17 years.
17, very long. That's very nice. What is your job?
I'm a physician.
Okay. And one last question. So can you just tell me your religion real quickly?
Islam.
Islam. So you're a Muslim, yes?
Yes.
Okay. But that's because where you're from, more or less.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to ask you some... The topic today is about the effect of 9/11 on Muslims. And I've categorized it into 3 categories. So I'm going to ask you some questions before the attack. How you're feeling during the attack and the aftermath, after the attack, like years after. So I'm going to begin with the before. And I just wanted to get some of your thoughts on the international safety and travel in the world before 9/11. Like, how was it with planes, boats? How was the security with this in the travel?
Well, I don't even remember most. All I remember is that it used to be like really easy to get on the planes, off the plane. I don't remember taking shoes off ever, anything like that.
So you never had to go through the big machines to scan the body, or to check if you had like any hidden weapons or metal parts on you, right?
I'm sure they used to check because there's no way they would not check it, but I don't remember like ever taking my shoes off or any more details.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's been so long since 9/11 that this has become such a part of life.
So it really wasn't super tight, the security, back in the days before.
You didn't feel as under the gun now that you feel all the time now.
So, we're gonna go to, how was your, maybe this attack happened because of this, but also how the U.S. was inside the Middle East. We could say this is one of the reasons why they attacked. What was your view of the U.S. inside of the Middle East?
What do you mean inside the Middle East?
Like how they were situated with the army, with the oil, spreading the democracy stuff like this, their politics, and trying to influence other governments in the Middle East, like Iran.
I mean, I think that this attack happened only because of Osama bin Laden, because he organized it. I don't think if he wasn't around, I don't think it would have happened. So it doesn't matter where America was or where our soldiers were. I mean, it doesn't matter. So I think it was just his doing.
But
so whatever his personal agenda, I mean, I can tell you what his personal agenda was, because at least on the surface, it seems like he was unhappy that American forces were on Saudi Arabian soil. And so when Saddam Hussein had invaded Iraq, at that point there was a danger that America would, that he would invade Saudi Arabia. So I think at that point, if my recollection is correct, they invited American forces into Saudi Arabia to protect themselves. And they have stayed there since.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, but Saddam Hussein was saying, it's not Saddam, Osama bin Laden was saying was that he wanted American forces out of there, what he calls the Holy Land.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's his personal grudge, and he has convinced enough people to go out there and die for him.
So you're saying that if there were no Osama bin Laden, then there would have never really been a 9/11.
Yeah, I exactly know exactly that wouldn't have happened. Of course not.
But even if he weren't there, did you ever think that the U.S. would have ever been attacked on its own soil, like after Pearl Harbor?
No, I mean,
like, did you ever think it was a possibility to ever happen again?
Yeah, I mean, so initially when this happened, I never actually thought of it as an attack. It was only later on when it was the government that kept saying that America was attacked. To me, it was just a terrorist act,
To instill fear in the lives of the American.
Like, I mean,
American
it
people.
was a terrorist, like, blow up. I mean, instead of blowing up a building with a bomb, they used airplanes as bombs. But to me, I didn't consider it as an attack. I thought it was a terrorist act. And so it's a way something is defined for people, and so I guess one can see it as an attack on America, or one can see it as a terrorist act.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I'm a physician, so I tell my patients that if they don't declare war on diabetes and just take it easy, then diabetes will slowly kill them and affect every organ. Now, I mean, is there like, now are they declared really they're attacking diabetes now? I mean, it's just a way to put something to make sense to them, because I guess I now have realized that ordinary Americans understand the concept of war, because here we call war on drugs, war on diabetes, war on the terrorists, and so you have to use terminology,
Mm-hmm.
Like in American terminology, you also have like baseball terms, like I hit a home run when you kind of go out and sleep with a girl, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you should not really hit a home run or do anything. I mean, so I think that the American government, I think, just kind of to rouse the people, started
to support the U.S. going into the Middle East to fight, like this, to eradicate Al Qaeda.
I don't know. I mean, one can I'm just saying it's my personal view.
So you don't think it was an attack on America, but more of a terrorist act to instill fear around people around the world, to say that, for Al Qaeda to kind of say that we're here, do what we say.
They were definitely making a point, and their point, I think Osama bin Laden's point was, he was saying that get out of Saudi Arabia, which I have never agreed with. I mean, I don't understand, like, throughout history, I mean, Jews and Christians used to live there throughout the time of Prophet Muhammad. So I don't understand who came up with the idea that the Holy Land or Saudi Arabia is the Holy Land and only Muslims can go there, and Christians cannot go there, or Christians cannot go even to Makkah, where Muslims go to pray. This was never part of Islam. It was like only recently that this thing has been put in place, and now it became such a big deal that he ended up like killing innocent people in an attack or whatever, terrorist attack or whatever you want to call it, blow up 2 buildings, kill innocent people,
mm-hmm.
and because he wants like people who he calls infidel to be out of there, and I mean, this is infidel was really never a term used by Muslims. This was actually originated in Christianity, and infidel was a term that was used by the Crusaders to describe Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it is clearly written in the Quran, and Muslims are not allowed to, they are not asked to convert a Christian or a Jew, because Muslims believe that they are people of the book, and God has already, and they are praying to the same God, and so they are not supposed to be converted. So throughout Islamic history, Muslims have never tried to convert Christians. If they converted themselves, then they converted. If they didn't convert, they didn't convert. And then when Spain got rid of all the Jews, it was in the Muslim countries that the Jews were welcomed and treated nicely. And when Muslims were invading the world and conquering the world, they conquered a lot of land. And Christians and Jews were never asked to convert, only to pay taxes. And so a lot of them used to convert because they didn't want to pay taxes. And so this whole deal about the fact that infidels and kill them and bombard them or destroy them or because of their religion, like what's going on around the world, is totally not in Islam that I understand. These are extremists who don't represent Islam at all. Mm-hmm. In fact, if they will somehow see this interview, they will probably consider me not a Muslim and they'll just try to come kill me too. So anybody who doesn't look at the world the way they look at it, they just want to kill everybody.
It's like IS or ISIS today.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same with a lot of other terrorist groups as well, not just IS, like Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda. All these, if you don't agree with their view, then you're an enemy of them, even if you share religion.
Because see, there are 72 sects in just Sunni part of Islam, and so this sect considers the other 71 not to be even Muslims. So if it was up to them, they'd just kill everybody, except people who like a lot of Muslims who go to the Hajj, the pilgrimage that they are supposed to do at least once in their lifetime.
In Mecca, yeah, to Mecca.
Yeah, to Mecca. So then part of that is that they would like to they want to touch the grave of the Prophet, because a lot of Muslims believe that if they could touch his grave, then he would make it easier for them to go to heaven. But the people who run Saudi Arabia, who have the same sect as so Osama bin Laden, he's from Saudi Arabia.
What is the sect?
They believe that you should directly talk to God, so they stand there. They have guards standing there with lashes, and so people have to fight through these lashes to go and try to touch the grave of the Prophet. So,
what's the name of the sect? Is this one sect of the 72? Do you know? Or
I just is skipping my mind right now. So it'll come in a second.
But do you think that because of this sect, it may have influenced him on the attack?
No, I mean, that is the sect. I mean, the whole Saudi Arabia is that sect, and it is that sect that has taken over the leadership of ISIS. So it's because of that sect's beliefs that we are in this trouble. Because Pakistan did not have that sect at all till less than 1% or even not even that. Because in Pakistan, the religion came differently. It was spread by Sufis, and these people who kind of came and they stayed there and they prayed. And in Hindu religion, you have the 5 sects, and so the untouchables and the ones that are born in the lower 2 sects, a lot of them converted to Christianity and Islam because that religion did not discriminate. So once you became a Muslim or a Christian, you were equal. And you were more equal in Islam, it seems like, because in Christianity they still had, in those days, they still had hierarchy, but still that's how Christianity and Islam spread in India and Pakistan, because of these guys who just spread the word. And so once those people who spread the word, they used to die. There is such a strong history, of going to graves and stuff. So Muslims in Pakistan have always done that, and there is music and there is dance and there is all sorts of girls. Women have always worked alongside of men there. I mean, in our family, my aunt had to work because if she didn't teach, her husband didn't make enough money to support the family. So all of this stuff that you hear is all creation of these rich guys from Saudi Arabia who think that women should not work, and so all this, even this dress that you see women wear, I mean, this was not a Muslim dress. I mean, this is how the nuns used to dress up. Even in fact, you look at nuns, they dress up just like that. So this was later on picked up somewhere by some Muslims, where they started dressing their women like the nuns. So it's a Christian adaptation by a part of Muslims. My mom, you've seen, never dresses like that. You've seen, you've seen her, you've seen Dadi.
Your daddy never dresses like it.
Yeah, they don't dress like that. I mean, in Pakistan, if you go, you'll be amazed. Like nowadays, I don't know what the deal is, but the girls dress up nice and, whichever the way they want to. But of course, the skirt is never a part of that tradition. So even if you go to India, where even if they're all Hindus, nobody wears a skirt over there. In India also, women who are totally not Muslims, they wear the shalwar kameez or they wear the sari. And that's what people in Pakistan wear, shalwar kameez and sari. So that was the dress, this black stuff all the way from top to bottom and not showing anything. I mean, this is totally Saudi Arabian or that type of Arab stuff that came from Christianity. And now they're trying to impose it on the whole Muslim world, seems like.
Well, you had all the influence of the Christians from imperialism and colonialism. A lot of times you've had European nations inside of the Middle East, so they had a lot of influence. Maybe this is one of the reasons why they had these dresses.
I don't know where it got picked up, but it literally is not how it was supposed to be, I mean, so this whole deal, like when we were growing up, we grew up studying Islam. We went to the mosque. I mean, our parents were Muslim. My mom's very strict Muslim. You've seen her. I mean, we were always taught that the worst crime you can commit in God's eyes is to kill innocent children, women, innocent people who are not fighting against you. Even if you are in a fight, you only go and fight the army. You never kill a single innocent person. And so now, I mean, the outbreak right now in Iraq,
in Syria, yes, with ISIS.
When what was his name? He was like the Al-Qaeda's guy in Iraq, Al-Zarqadi or something.
Al-Baghdadi? No. This is the leader of ISIS.
Anyway, so when he blew up one of the mosques of the Shiite Muslims, because he wanted them to fight each other, then they came around and killed literally thousands and thousands of Sunnis in neighborhoods, as some of the Sunnis were killing the Shiites in their neighborhoods. And so that was Shia Sunni, which was exactly similar to what was going on in India and Pakistan when Pakistan separated. You've seen movies where thousands of dead people are arriving from India to Pakistan and from Pakistan to India. And so they were two different religions. So these kind of things kind of begin to happen in civil wars. And those are the kind of things that could have happened in America, I think, because after 9/11, a lot of things changed, and a lot of Muslims didn't feel very safe. And there were some Sikhs killed, like in San Francisco, because they had a beard and they looked like Muslims. And so if the government had not taken a very active role to protect and say that we are a democratic country, we don't do stuff like this. I mean, literally, that's how things go out of control, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. With like the innocent killings, that's exactly what you're not supposed to do with the innocent killings, and that's what they did in 9/11. They killed
Exactly. So
almost
to me, it's a
3,000
terrorist
innocent
attack.
people.
How do you call that a war? But anyway, that's besides the point. So you wanna ask me something else about before 9/11?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
one thing
how
about
did?
9/11 was we felt totally like nobody felt a foreigner in this country. That's how it was. I mean, people were running businesses. Everybody felt at home. You felt welcome here. I used to talk to my patients about Islam or something. They would say, "What is Islam? We've never heard of it. What do you believe in?" I mean, that was basically it. People just respected. There was no prejudice against Muslims here at all. And in fact, the government's policy was so screwed up that when I was trying to apply for a visa to come here, it was very difficult to get a visa because the visa policy was mainly governed by labor policy. So, and also the American government was in cahoot with the hardcore Islamic parties because they had been fighting against the Russians. So if you went to the American embassies wearing a big beard and looked like you were like from that part of the world, and you were like totally didn't know how to speak English and didn't like America, then you got a visa. That was the easiest way to get an American visa if you didn't like America. But if you liked America and you said, "Oh man, cool, I wear jeans," man, immediately they used to like deny you a visa because they would think, "Oh, he's never going to come back." So this was a big joke between all of us because we used to hang around because we used to love America. So we were all friends. We were like, "Man, it's hard to get a visa." And one of my friends, very close friends, used to laugh. "Yeah, my friend, he's like hates America and he's like all into like being religious all the time and stuff. And he just went and in 2 minutes they gave him a visa because he doesn't like them. So they think he's not going to stay there. He's going to come back." So it was very easy for people who wanted to blow it up to get here because all they had to do was, I think, act like they had nothing in common with America and that you get a visa.
So everybody was treated like the same. There was no such thing as like the word kind of there was, but no, really didn't feel like the word foreigner existed in America. Everybody was the same, kind of like this, no difference.
Because see, a lot of what you feel is also in your heart, right? So one can sit in a room and feel that they are threatened, and also feel like they are being loved. And so, even if there was something in people's hearts, it was not on their faces. They hid it. And so people felt welcomed. And in fact, it is kind of almost there still. But I think every time something happens in the Middle East, people get reminded and people get scared. And every time some politician here comes and tries to keep reminding people so they can keep getting votes. But still, in general life, it seems like there is not that feeling that came right after 9/11. Everything changed when 9/11 happened.
Yeah,
I still remember I was at the office, so I used to trade a lot, and I don't know why. So I used to watch the news, right? So I used to always have CNBC on. And so I went on the computer and CNBC started showing these videos, so I actually watched it. So when I saw a patient, I came back in between the two planes. And it didn't really register very much in me, and I just kept seeing patients, and we were like, wow, what's going on? Two planes just ran into the World Trade Center. And then all of the planes were grounded, and then more news started coming in. So it's really, everybody felt sad, and you felt like awful that innocent people died. There were people from so many different countries in the World Trade Center. They all like innocently died. So you felt bad for the innocent people.
But how were your thoughts and feelings of 9/11 in that moment?
Yeah,
maybe a few days after.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a horrible horrible thing that happened, that so many innocent people died, and that then the buildings crashed. I mean, they were like symbols of New York, and you saw on TV how miserable things were. So many firefighters died, so many policemen died, and my mom was like praying constantly for innocent to die so that they would like all go to heaven and stuff. And there was a great I think the initial reaction was this great sympathy for America from all over the world,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody in the world felt how horrible an act it was that was committed.
Mm-hmm. Except for the few people that supported it.
What's that?
Except for the few people that were behind the attack. They're the only ones who enjoyed it.
And so that's kind of what the situation was. And but then you started hearing about the six got killed, and sporadic violence was breaking out against Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
So it,
and the violence that broke out against Muslims, as you're Muslim, did you think that the violence would come to you, would come to you, if anybody would attack you?
I never thought that. For some reason, I didn't feel that way, but I realized that one day when one of my patients, who's a Vietnam vet, he talked to me and said that if you feel that you are threatened or you don't feel secure, then I'm ready to come and move in or keep a guard in front of your house. I can put a tent out there and I can be there to protect you. So then I realized that maybe there are people out there that he might be aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I never personally experienced it. Now, I had some patients who ran gas stations here. And I remember in a year or two, I talked to one of them, and he was around 40, 50 at the time, and he just broke out crying, and he said, what did I do? What did I do? We just came here, we just have a gas station. I didn't do any bombing, but why do these people do this to us? They come here, they break our glasses, they throw their stones, they scream at us, and they say, you go home, go home, don't be here. Then they will drive away, they don't buy gas from us, and our business is completely destroyed. And so that's when I realized that people out there are feeling. Then I remember also that I went to see the lawyer because I had not still applied for my citizenship. So I had to get a lawyer to apply for citizenship. So he was representing people, and he was telling me that, hey, make sure you don't take a flight, because there are so many people who have taken a flight and they have disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And taken into custody. So I didn't take a flight for, I think, 2 or 3 years after 9/11, because that's what I was more scared of. I was more scared, as I saw the news, I was more scared of the fact that since I'm from Pakistan, I could get scooped up in some kind of interrogation that was going on across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was my fear. But of course it proved baseless, because I was never questioned and I was never stopped. So it was a baseless fear, but it was still a fear. I was also scared that FBI will just show up.
Yeah.
And but I was lucky in the sense that I did not buy the program.
The flight simulator game.
The flight simulator, because literally about a week before 9/11, I was thinking about buying it. But I didn't buy it then, because I was like, I'm just going to waste money, because I don't want to fly away anyway. And so I didn't buy it. But because I had, when I moved to Alabama, when I moved to Fort Payne, it's a small city, so they have an airport, and there you can get flying lessons real easy.
Mm-hmm.
So the CEO of the hospital used to fly, and he took me on a flight, and when we landed, we almost died because a wind came from the side and almost tilted the plane. So that day I decided I was not going to learn how to fly. because I didn't want to just die because a gush of wind just kills me. You know,
Mhm.
I thought it was safer to drive a motorcycle than to learn to fly a small plane. So that was the reason that I didn't. Otherwise, I probably would have taken flying lessons if that gush of wind had not hit us.
So there were many ways that, like, if you did anything like suspicious,
Yeah, so if
like
I had taken
after the
flying
days,
lessons, then they would have probably arrested me.
yeah, taking
If
a
I had bought Flight Simulator, they probably would have arrested me.
Mhm.
But I never did, and I did. So luckily, I never got into like flying games. I like more other types of games. So
Mhm.
so
you never
but
felt the
those were the
civilian.
things that were happening. But one of the programs I saw on TV that really scared me. It really scared me. Was the fact that Alan Dershowitz, he is a professor at Harvard, and ever since I was in Pakistan, he has been like someone I have always looked up to because he believes in all the Constitution of America, the right of people to express themselves. And
Mhm.
so I had read almost all of his books, and like in one of his books, he had said that people have a right of expression. People have to have a right, and he said that because he's Jewish, so he said that Jewish people don't like Nazis, but he said that if they want to stand up, they should protect the rights of Nazis to march if they want to express their views without attacking them, because they have as much of a right to express themselves as anybody else. And so I thought that someone like him would be vocal in the support of innocent Muslims who hadn't done anything.
Mhm.
And so I saw him being interviewed, and I just couldn't believe my ears when he said that the only way he can think of to protect America from a second attack would be to put all the Muslims in concentration camps. And then we would be safe. Otherwise, we can never be safe in America.
Mm.
And I was just so shocked. And I thought, if Alan Dershowitz is saying that we should put all the Muslims in a concentration camp, then, and he was the voice of reason, then what hope do we have left?
Mhm.
And so that was, after that, I was very scared. I was convinced that if we had a second attack, and I'm still convinced, if there was a second attack, then they would have put every Muslim in America in concentration camps.
Like the Japanese.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's why I could never wholeheartedly ever complain that the American government did what it did in terms of like the security going up and everything, because I thought that if they didn't do that, then there would be a second attack.
Mhm.
And if there was a second attack, then all the Muslims here would end up in concentration camps. It's the only way to prevent that some innocent people would, of course, get in trouble, and some innocent people would get put in jail, and a lot of them did. But the bigger picture was that most of the Muslims in America actually did not end up in jails, did not end up in concentration camps, because there was never a second attack.
Mhm. And because of like this reason of the attack, did you feel like you had the connection to the attack because of your religion? Like with the concentration camps and stuff like that. Did you feel like you had a connection to the attack?
I
Religion?
mean, I didn't have any connection to the attack. No. What do you mean?
But like as of like religion, because
Yeah, because
the
of
religion
being
was
from
the religion who
Pakistan. See,
was
that was the other thing that Pakistani people were really mad about, because all the people who attacked, there was not a single Pakistani in there. They were all Saudi Arabians.
Mhm.
But Saudi Arabians, because they were very close to the Bush family,
Mhm.
and they immediately knew that Saudi Arabians attacked, a lot of Saudi Arabians were allowed to take planes and leave America because they did not know how the atmosphere here will develop.
Mhm.
So they really didn't have any Saudis to put in prison, but they went after Pakistanis for some reason.
Mhm.
And so a lot of Pakistanis were deported, and but there was not a single Pakistani in the attack. But it's because of the fact that Pakistan was, I guess, close to that or whatever their intelligence was. I don't know why.
Well, it's not like people in that moment didn't have a lot of like, they just had the feelings that, oh, somebody attacked us, Muslims attacked us. That the Bush administration probably took advantage and said the people probably don't really know their geography so much, some might as well just blame some country, and they just maybe pointed to the map and looked at Pakistan.
Yeah, but I would still have to because I would still have to give President Bush credit, because at a point of very high tension against Muslims, he actually went to a mosque and he said, "We are Americans, they are Americans, they are not terrorists, they are not our enemies, they are Americans, we are not going to do this. We're not going to have this happen here." And that really brought down a lot of tensions. So he took that step at a very critical moment when the tempers were about to boil over here. And the police took strict action and against anybody who did any civil disobedient and tried to attack or kill any Muslim. They did not let anybody escape it. So if they would literally show up and do whatever it took, and so the American government took every step to make sure that civil war doesn't break out here, or Muslims are not attacked, or their property is not attacked. So I think that we should not forget these good things also that the government was doing. So I think that they were probably, yes, some innocents are always going to be hurt, right? But in big picture, I mean, I think they did the right thing, that they increased security, they protected a second attack, they protected most of the Muslims. That same government that was attacking Iraq, at the same time, they did not put Muslims in concentration camps. When there was such a hue and cry, when people like Alan Dershowitz was saying put everybody in concentration camps, but the government, American government, George W. decided not to do it. You know.
These other people fear that there might be a second attack. Did you fear that there might be a second attack? Ever? Did you ever fear there might be a second attack?
Oh yeah, I mean, it seemed like it was imminent, and there was that bomber. Remember the shoe bomber? He almost blew up a plane.
Where was it?
There was a shoe bomber. He had a bomb. He had a bomb in his shoe, and he was trying to take his shoe off, and people saw what he was doing, and they all overpowered him. Because by that time, the story of that plane, the people who had overpowered the terrorists, everybody knew it. So now it's very clear that if there is somebody who tries to overtake a plane, the passengers attack that person right away. They're not going to just let him overtake it, even if they die. That is a spirit now in America. So the passengers attacked that guy and took his shoe away, and put him, so he couldn't blow it up. So that's why they started taking the shoes off after that, because of the shoe bomber.
Oh, okay.
And then there was another guy. They were trying to bring bomb. They had liquids that they were going to combine to make a bomb. So that's why after that, this is when they started to you're not allowed to take big bottles of liquids. You know, so that also, so all of these.
So a lot of the regulations came off because a lot of the regulations that they have set in airports came off of these kind of attacks.
Right, because anytime there was a loophole, because there was also some kind of loophole with them could do something with laptops and stuff. So then after that they started looking at the laptops too. Because anybody if you can hire, what's the point of checking if somebody can bring a bomb in a shoe, right?
Yeah.
So that's why you had to take your shoes off. So they could look at the shoe in the picture and see if. And also the good thing is that in America there is a lot of vocal opposition for profiling. You know what profiling is? Yeah, there was initially they were just profiling, saying that anybody who looks Muslim or looks Middle Eastern, then go and get them and let everybody else go.
Mm-hmm.
But there is that becomes like in America that becomes a big problem because of civil rights are so important now.
Mm-hmm.
And then Shoe Bomber was like a white guy. He was like, so they missed, if they were just going to profile, they would miss somebody like him.
Mm-hmm.
So profiling was prohibited, so you couldn't like just check only the people who look foreigner or look Muslim or look Middle Eastern. They decided they were going to check everybody.
Mm-hmm. How was your mental state after 9/11, and how did it affect your short term? How was it affecting you?
Well, short term, it affected me that it happened on September 11th, and I had a daughter that was born
Yes,
on
September 24th. Yes.
24th, and so it affected me that I wanted to give her a name that would look like it were long hair, that it wasn't an obscenely, openly Muslim name.
Mm-hmm.
It affected me in that I was really ashamed of being a Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
It affected me in the sense that I was ashamed that I belonged to a religion that people could use to justify killing innocent people and feel like they would go to heaven, even though I knew there was no such thing there. But I still felt really bad that I even had a remote connection to it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, I just was not very happy with the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it affected us in other ways too, because our mail was being opened, our phone was being taped. So I knew they had to do that, but I still, so you know that you're not that far simply because of your name and your religion.
Mm-hmm.
You are being monitored. Mail, always, all the mail used to come open after that.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is how you were treated, or like you felt like after 9/11. But do you think this was also, how do you think like the majority of Muslims were treated after 9/11, right after 9/11?
I mean, I wasn't treated bad, right?
Huh?
I told you I didn't even feel it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because after that I applied for my citizenship and actually got it in the first try. So I was still given my citizenship because my papers were all in order.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they must have done a background investigation because they always do.
Mm-hmm.
And they must have done even more investigation because this was after 9/11, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all my papers were in order, everything was correct. They didn't find anything wrong, so they even gave me a citizenship right away. I mean, within 2 or 3 years after that. So.
Mm-hmm. But how did, like you mentioned the phone tapping?
Right.
What did you think about that? Like, was it like right for them to do it? Was it a necessary thing for the government to do?
Your mom was really mad about it because obviously, your mom is born and raised in Ohio, and she is Catholic. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like how she behaved. It really pissed me off because you have to understand that the government has to do a job, right? The people who represent the government have to do a job.
Yes.
Because if something else happens, somebody's going to get hanged. So you, in this high, tight environment of everybody trying to do their job, but they're not trying to harass you or anything, you're not going to try to say, she would pick up the phone and started just talking randomly like Osama bin Laden, Muslim, terrorist attack, stuff like that, just to piss them off. And it really used to piss me off big time because I thought it was not funny at all. I mean, I think that she might have brought it on to us because she would say stuff like that. So when the computer picked up those kind of things, now we know because we didn't know in that time. So when the computer picks up those kind of words, then it finds a phone number and they start tapping it. You know?
But you think this phone tapping overall for the safety of the nation was a necessary evil?
Oh, I think it was the right thing to do. at that time, because I knew that they had to. I mean, I was like so scared of another attack that might be successful, another terrorist attack, that I didn't want a single more person to be successful. And the only way that was possible was that they would like be vigilant.
Mhm.
And so I think that the government did its job.
Mhm.
And so because they were so vigilant, second attack never got successful, and hence we are where we are and not in a concentration camp somewhere.
Mhm. Do you think like that what the CIA did in the 20th century for the Cold War, when the CIA trained the Mujahideen, do you think that may have been like a cause or one of the factors that led to the
Of course,
attack?
yeah, the whole thing is the whole thing. But the thing is that, what else could you do? But that is definitely, I mean, that's what happened, because the Russians came into Afghanistan, and so that was the best way to get back at them,
Mhm.
by training Mujahideen to go fight them. And so that's when this whole thing started, that it was Saudi Arabian money and American CIA joined together to start training people all across the world. The only problem that nobody foresaw coming was that by involving Saudi Arabia, they got the wrong kind of Islam backing up all these people, where these mosques were made in Ethiopia and in Sudan and all of these places, and in Pakistan. And so then they developed these madrasas where, remember we were reading about how poor people would give one of their kids to be a monk because they could not afford them.
Mhm. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know that? Like back in 1200s
Yeah.
in England and all across Europe. So poor people who could not raise their kids, they wanted their kids to be fed and to have a life of some kind and maybe a choice. So that's what was happening all across the Muslim world. Saudi Arabia was funding opening these mosques and these places where they would take any kid and feed him and teach him how to read the Quran and give them clothes to wear and food to eat, and then train them to be warriors and go fight like the Mujahideen.
Yeah.
Fight Russians. But once Osama bin Laden materialized out of nowhere, and
Yeah. He was one of the people that were trained in this.
and then all of a sudden he had this ready-made army sitting there that actually was trained by and supported by so it is those people who are now going and fighting over there for the ISIS, I think.
ISIS, yeah.
But that army is going to continue to be trained because nobody is able to shut those things down now.
Mhm.
I think they are still operating. I might be wrong about it, but I think they are still operating all across. And to me, I see that as the biggest threat to the safety of the world.
Mhm.
Somebody has to figure out how to shut those down, because that's the wrong kind of Islam that they are being taught.
Yeah. And with these people
The other
also,
problem is most of those people don't speak Arabic.
so they're not
I
able
don't
to.
speak Arabic, right?
Yeah.
So I read the Quran, so I didn't understand it. So anybody, if I was totally under the influence of some religious leader and they told me whatever it meant, if they told me that, oh, it says in there that that something that is not in there, I would have had to believe it, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't really understand the language. It would be like if you read for example, let's say that people all your Vestavia Health buddies, if they read the Bible in Latin and nobody knew Latin,
Mhm.
and then the priest told them what it's meant, they would probably believe it, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what's happening. All these people don't even know that committing suicide bombing is like a crime. It is one of the unforgivable crimes in Islam. If you commit suicide, you will never go to heaven.
Mhm. It's like Mom said. One of the reasons she doesn't go to church is that she doesn't need somebody interpreting the Bible for her to say
but
what
see,
its meaning is.
Yeah, but the thing is that's what Catholics did. that's why the Protestant religion separated, as you studied last year, that Martin Luther King said that people need to like read the Bible and interpret it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, but for Muslims, this was the case from day one, because they read and interpreted it for themselves. So that's what the Sunni sect is. Sunni sect believes that you need to read it and interpret it for yourself. So that's why there are 72 sects. People read it and interpret it. But these guys from Saudi Arabia, they want to interpret it for you. They don't believe in you like interpreting it, and they don't believe your interpretations. So when they don't believe your interpretations, and you say, well, my interpretation is different, they just want to kill you because they don't think you're a Muslim anymore.
Like we were talking about earlier, with ISIS, also them fighters like these people training, do you think it could lead to another possibility of another attack like 9/11?
Well, I mean, I think that now it's mainly a Sunni Shiite fight. So that's what's really going on. And I think that we should like make peace with both sides and let them fight it out. You know, I don't think we should like interfere. Why take on an enemy that we don't want to make? Because inherently in Islam there is no such thing.
That's what.
Right. So I think that. But the problem is, you know, we are the superpower now. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe taking on anybody in the world is being part of a superpower, I guess.
Well, after also like 9/11, we talked about your safety, like from the FBI, stuff like this, with the flight simulator and trying to avoid flights, taking flights.
Right.
Were you still like years maybe after were you on alert for your safety? Did you ever think about it or no? Like, did you like now you probably don't think about your safety, right?
I mean,
because of 9/11.
Attention, we still drove the car. I still drove you. You were like really young, and so I still drove you around. I still used to take you to like South, to Illinois. Used to take you to St. Louis. I used to drive alone with you. I never thought about it. Never crossed my mind.
So you really
Maybe
didn't.
I was just too stupid or something.
You weren't so concerned for your like safety, like
No, I was
years
not.
after.
Because those things were immediately shut down. The government took such strong action that died down very quickly. And because the second attack never happened, after people kind of overcame their initial anger, I think they stopped going out and trying to kill anybody who looked like different.
What was your, like I asked you earlier, like before, when your state of mind, you kind of felt ashamed. Like short term you felt ashamed to be kind of like a Muslim, be kind of connected to these people.
Right. And
But how was it long term now, your mental state?
Well, also, at that time, I was like really, I also thought about the fact that, you were born here. And I felt like, okay, I wanted to have my kids born in America so they could get better chances in life, they have better opportunities. And at that time, I felt like I kind of did you a disfavor by giving you a name that would then identify you as a Muslim. And there were other things happening that, like Muslims were not getting any more jobs. So if I thought, if this continues and you apply for a job, nobody's going to even call you for an interview. Because that's what was happening. People with Muslims' name weren't being called for even interviews. So I started, like, I also thought that maybe, Brian, I should call you Brian. And I started calling you Brian. And so one of your teachers asked me, like, is he Gibran or is he Brian? Who do you want us to call? So I said, I think we should call him Brian. She said, okay. So she told the class that, hey, we should call him Brian. And everybody was, like, very upset about it, all your classmates. Because you were, like, 5 years old or something, or 3 years old or something at the time. So, but in a couple of days, they forgot. And everybody just started calling you Brian, and then everybody called you. Because a lot of old people who, like, my friends at that time, they still call you Gibran because they were used to calling you Gibran.
Mm-hmm.
And since they so infrequently see you, they don't realize that, we call you Brian. But we never took the time to go and officially change your name.
Mm-hmm.
So officially your name is still the same. And but now you can choose yourself whether you want to be called Gibran, Brian, or both. But my thinking was that I felt like by giving you a name like that, maybe I did you a disfavor.
No.
The reason I picked that name was I actually did a lot of research. I didn't know anybody with that name.
Mm-hmm.
And every name I was trying to circulate and search, and I would ask my patients, this was a name that they could pronounce. Everybody could pronounce it. And when I changed the spelling to J, then they could spell it without being asked. So I thought at least with Gibran, they would only ask what? One time?
Yeah.
Because otherwise people ask like 10 times, like, what did you say? Like what? Like
Uh-huh.
what? But once we started calling you Brian, nobody even said what once. Everybody just knew what your name was after one time.
Uh-huh.
So,
this could be it treated you long term because it took you maybe a couple years to change the name. Not right away it happened. It took 1 year. Yeah, 1 year for you to change my name. How do you think the majority of Muslims were treated after 9/11, years after? Also, with me in Vancouver or in the airport, kind of like this.
I mean, of course, when we flew one time, and I think they stopped you. You were really young, 5-6 years old, or younger than that. I think you were younger than that. You were 3-4 years old.
Uh-huh.
And so I guess your name showed up on some terror list, and mine wasn't. So they let me go, and now there you were, 3-year-old standing there, and your name is on a terrorist list or some kind of something. I don't know why, but they stopped you, and they didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
So then this woman, she was in charge. She said, for God's sake, he's 3 years old. Let him go.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously not the guy on the list,
Mm-hmm.
And so they let you go.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the only one instance of where this happened. Otherwise, we've never been stopped or nothing.
But it was kind of a touch of what maybe was happening with a lot of people.
It was just a touch of what could happen to anybody.
Yeah.
You were obviously not a terrorist, but what if you were 20 years old at the time?
Mm-hmm.
And you showed up, they might have taken you into custody and told me to go home, and they'll get back with me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then they might have interrogated you, and you would have said, I don't know anything. So, but they would have said, but you're on this list, so obviously you know something. And I had heard that they were doing waterboarding and stuff, so you might have been tortured, who knows.
But do you think that a majority of Muslims were treated like this 2 or 3 years after the attack?
Well, treated like what?
No, just treated differently. Or treated like maybe a terrorist just because of their name or what they look like.
A lot of people were arrested, a lot of people were not being given interviews.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people were...
or a lot of racism.
Being questioned. A lot of people were deported.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think it helped that I was a doctor and I was working for a university, so I had more respect in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And so that maybe came in handy. And if I just was working as a worker somewhere in a restaurant, then maybe things might have turned out different for our family. Who knows? Since I was never part of it, and I was never really involved in the community very much, so I don't really know.
My final question to you is, for you is that as a Muslim, how did 9/11 affect you?
There was very tense days. I used to have severe anxiety when I was a kid, and then I had brought it under control. It had gone away, and I was really happy, and everything was great. And then 9/11 happened, and I became very anxious. I was very worried all the time. Used to be scared. Every time I used to go to sleep, I used to think FBI is gonna come grab me, and I used to, I didn't know. I used to stay up all night looking at the news, so I was keeping up with everything.
Mm-hmm.
I used to worry about the fact that we're going to end up in concentration camps. I used to worry about the fact that you guys would not get the opportunities that I wanted you guys to get. And so, yeah, so, but you know, these things were all happening in my head. So yeah, it affected me that way. Even though I agreed with a lot of things the government was doing to protect us in a big way, but but still the fear was there. And a lot of times that's what it is, right? Because it never, what I was really scared was that I felt literally, I personally felt, even though it never happened to me, I felt like Jews must have felt in Germany that at night, one day, the Nazis would come, put them in a truck, and take them to somewhere, and they would disappear. Because right after, a lot of people disappeared, and there was talk about this, that this should what they should do. So I was really scared. But it came out okay, you know, the big time. I mean, of course, prejudice is natural to human beings. And so I still feel that America has, as a country and as a people, the ability to rise above and be better than most people in this world are. And I've always seen that, and I feel that people have that here. Because my practice did not lose a single patient after that happened. People continued to see me and respect me and honor me. And yes, they had conversations in their houses. One of my patients laughed and told me that we had a dinner table conversation. And she said, I vouched for you that you are not a terrorist. And so, of course, these conversations cannot be avoided. But people stayed. They still came. So I, you know, when I was growing up, I looked at America as as a hope, as a beacon for hope for the whole human race. Because here in this world, in this country, on this land, they had achieved and made and written a constitution that said that human beings have some inalienable rights. And they cannot be taken away.
Yes.
And they were governing themselves. And they did not have leaders. And so I strongly believe that America was a place that was to be protected, and that constitution needed to be protected, and hopefully over time the whole world's people can be free. And yes, we can criticize the conduct of American government, but I have a very difficult time saying that America could have done anything else. I mean, I think that, because I strongly believe that if there is an ideology, for example, like for example, Hitler, right? You know, Hitler came to power with democratically elected, right? And so if there is a party that's like a communist party, and this is, once we gain power, then we will destroy the very structure that brings it into power. So you have to fight it. I don't think it's smart enough to let them even run in the elections. If there is a party that's like a Muslim party that says that there should be like the rules will change, and everybody would have to like pray, and everybody have to do this, and we would change the law, and then only people who are Muslims and this strong belief, they'll be able to come to power. You can't let those people run for election. Because if they win, like Hitler win, then they would become like Hitlers. I have a very big problem with letting any kind of ideology come to power that basically says they're going to destroy democracy and the right to choose and people's ability to change their own government as their ideology. And so I believe that that ideology has to be fought everywhere. And you have to do whatever it takes. You know? People believe, people are willing to die for their religion, right? So I think that it is good that at least we have one place in this world where we are ready to go die for the freedom that comes. Yeah, I know, and it bothers me a lot that we have had, as Americans, have had to give up freedoms. And I hope it will reverse itself after a while. Still, you know, still, I think in America there is still a sense that people believe in liberty and freedom and the right to say what you want. And yeah, it might be taken away a little bit, but it's still there, better than a lot of other places, and hopefully it'll spread through the world in time. So I feel that sometimes this is necessary to do whatever it takes to overall protect the freedoms.
Okay, thanks, Dad. Thanks for doing this interview for me. It's really helpful and great for me to know, and I'm really sure that the class will be grateful for you sharing your knowledge and your time with us today.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye, Dad. Love you.
Love you too.